Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
All right. Okay. All right. So we're 5 minutes in of 5 minutes of muting. All right. What the fuck?
Can you guys hear us? Would you just respond and say you can hear us?
Yeah. He says, I hear you. Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, Vanessa.
Good morning, everybody. I'm back.
All right. Let's start from the beginning. We apologize for the.
No, I'm not apologizing.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, we can hear you. Well, Vanessa Moss, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning,
Allan Lengel.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, Allan.
Well, let's go.
Good morning. Welcome back, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Happy to be back.
All right.
Well, you know what? Let's get straight to the point. We're here at Exchange in Courtown. Thank you, Bob Roberts. And let's go with our outrage of the week, Vanessa.
So my outrage of the week is probably going to be my outrage for the year. I personally think it is criminal that we live in the greatest country in the land. I think it's criminal to have people that don't have homes. I think homelessness is criminal. I think poverty is criminal. And the fact that we don't have universal health care and we do not have a robust mental health system is criminal. Why do I say this? I shared this story with you. I had an encounter with someone, and everybody knows what I do for a living. I had an encounter with a lady, and she was charged with assaulting an officer. They had arrested her, and they had her holding cell, basically, and they decided that because she has mental illness that they were going to inject her with medication. That's a problem. It's a problem because you didn't have a court order to do that. So, of course, we're going to hold a preliminary examination. The officer in charge, I guess, thought about error of their ways, and they decided that they weren't going to proceed. Okay, so we did a dismissal. I was in tears because this is what I encountered. A woman who's homeless, who slept on a bench the night before. The night before was when we had that heavy rain. She comes into the building. She is soaking wet. She's talking and she's chattering. Her teeth are chattering. She had nowhere to go. But she had enough presence of mind to come to court to handle her business. Someone had allowed her to stay at their place. They're using her EBT card. And when the money ran out on the EBT card,
they kicked her out.
They kicked her out. So she had to sleep outside all night, but came to court anyway. She had nothing. Nothing. We live in the United States of America, and this is what we have. And you know what I thought to myself? Not only was I touched, I took the people mover over. Everybody knows I live downtown. Now I took the people mover over and walked. And I'm thinking in my head, I gave her what I had in my bag. And I tell her her blankets are wet, her bags are wet, everything is wet. A couple of the officers took money out their pocket to give it to her, but I'm standing there thinking, okay, what else can I do? What else can I do? Can't put her in my vehicle because I don't have my vehicle. gave her some money and said, hey, go to a laundromat, put your things in there so that you can get them dry, wash them and get it dry, get something to wear. Then by the time I got home, I realized I should have put on a people mover with me, and I should have gone up to the Salvation Army to get her some dry clothes. But I'm outraged that we live in this country and this happens, and this is the problem. I think that when we're in district court, that's the first level, that's before you go to circuit court. Why don't we have social workers? Why don't we have people for housing there? Why don't we have mental health? We don't have a mental health. The mental health system that we have here is a revolving door. They put them in the hospital for a few days and you get out, and you depend on these people to go and get outpatient treatment. That is very unrealistic. So am I outraged? Yes. And I was brought to tears, okay, and that's days ago. But, today, this morning, yesterday, I'm thinking about that woman and all the other people that are like her. And that's my outrage.
Well, you can walk down the street and you can see the folks. But you can thank John Engler and his group for closing all. They closed all the hospitals. They closed all the clinics. Turned them into charter schools or market rate apartments or condos.
But what about a system that charged somebody because she's saying that, listen, you're not going to inject me, and she's fighting back. You don't have the right to do that.
No, you don't.
But you know what? It's interesting. I mean, we blame John Engler, and he certainly gets some blame. But we've had Democratic administration since. We currently have one. They need to address that instead of just worrying about looking like they're being so successful with a surplus in the budget. We need to, we keep talking about mental health, about guns, and, the NRA will say it's a mental health issue, but, the Republicans will say it's a mental health issue, it's not a gun issue, and yet they won't fund the mental health that's needed for that. But the Democrats are also...
It's poverty as well.
Well, it's always going to be poverty.
It's a holistic approach to the whole thing.
Exactly. And if you go to some of these states, go to Denver. That's the capital of Colorado. You see a homeless camp, thousands of people. Go to Phoenix.
It's criminal.
Go to LA.
You see them all.
It's criminal. But we could spend money in other countries.
Our homeless rate here is way low. I checked the other day. The homeless rate is on any given night in the city of Detroit, 1,280 homeless. You would think it'd be more, but you know what? Detroit is a lousy place to be homeless. I mean, if you're going to be homeless, you go to Portland, Oregon, you go to LA,
go to Vancouver.
You go to places where you can sleep out on the street at night and not freeze to death.
But in Phoenix, 120 degrees, 200 people died from the heat.
Yeah.
No,
that's outrageous. I'm sorry.
Okay, Allan.
I've got a couple here. One is yesterday, Chief Craig, former Chief James Craig, posted a column on the Daily Caller, which is a very conservative publication, just gushing about why ex-President Trump should be the president again. And I'll just read you a little. He goes, under President Donald J. Trump, the economy was stronger and the streets were safer. In fact, the world was safer while America's southern border was being strengthened and American energy was being celebrated and utilized. It was a proud time to be an American. And he goes on to say, Americans need to accept that problems are building up while Washington leaders are ready to confront them, unlike President Trump. Obviously, he's got his nose so far up Trump's ass because he's worried about he's got to be running for the U.S. Senate, and he doesn't want Trump coming after him.
So that is exactly what I was saying. What office is he running for?
He's running for the Senate.
That's what that's all about.
He's running for the Senate.
He has to be, because I'm like, well, what is this? He's
a little man. The coward of the county is running for the Senate. He's the guy that ran from. He said it was a potential hijacker that was going to take his car, and he got.
He ran, but I mean,
he ran.
Something like that happened to me. So
well, but you're a civilian. You're a civilian. You're a citizen. You're not carrying a gun. This guy. This guy got a gun.
He was in a regular car, right?
It don't matter. He got a gun. He's been a cop for 30 years. He protecting the city.
There was a video where some guys were shooting on the street with like an assault weapon, and the cops like
kept going.
They avoided it.
Right.
You know, it's like I mean,
why become a cop?
It's okay to circle around maybe
That's
and figure out.
different though.
Yeah.
You ride in your vehicle.
But then
somebody tries to park. I'm sorry.
Well, if you don't wear a uniform, that's just like I was in the military. So you in a battleground and you run, they shoot your ass. Your own people will shoot you. He's a coward.
And I have one other quick one.
Go ahead.
I was watching Newsmax, which was to the right of Fox News.
Why are you watching that shit?
Well, I just like to keep an eye.
Do you watch it?
So anyways, they had a little picture of Rudy Giuliani, and it said, "Help the Rudy Legal Fund." They're shilling for Rudy Giuliani, and they're trying to help him get money for his legal fund. So I found a picture from the movie Borat, where Rudy was in there, if you remember. And so I want for Newsmax, if they would like to use the ad that I created here.
Lord have mercy.
Give to the Rudy Fund. 1-800, really?
All right. Anyways,
Okay.
that's my.
Okay. Now my outrage. Listen, I get a letter from somebody, Kevin Adele's mouthpiece. Didn't even spell my name right. That bastard over at 910 want to shut me up, threaten to sue me. Sue me, Kevin Adele. You a piece of garbage. You a liar. You a cheat. You're a racist. And you can dish it out, but he can't take it. Allan? What do they call the?
You can dish it out, but you got so that you can't take it no more.
Listen, what do they call the Jews that collaborated?
Capos.
Yeah, he's a capo. You know, he'll sell his own family down the river. Now he's unturned. He said this was an urban station, if #1 in the country. Now it's Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck. He got all the conspiracy things. I'm not mad. We left. I'm not mad. I'm mad because he think he can intimidate me. Listen, you can't intimidate me. Sending me a letter. Tell your attorney that he needs to spell my name right. 2, to email me that I'm gonna get scared. Ooh. So, Mr. Adele, please, Mr. Adele.
That's important right there.
Right.
If you want to fuck with me, do it right. Because you and your station, y'all ain't shit. That's my outrage of the week.
Well, something.
Before we go
Okay.
on, let's take a break. And then we'll come back and continue the conversation.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email textinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
About that. One, you should. You know what? Obviously, he's watching you watching this show on YouTube, because why would he have his attorney send a letter to you? So obviously, he's watching. He's watching the same person that was on his channel that he said, listen, nobody was listening, but you're watching Detroit in black and white. That's one thing. The other thing is there seems to be a whole lot of conversation about urban talk radio and the non-existence of the urban talk radio. And people seem to be very outraged about it. Listen, my take on that is this. Number one, for those of us that was on 9:10 a.m. Superstation, listen, it's not as if we were willing participants. The bottom line,
Yeah.
Nobody's a victim. Okay, willing participants. Two, when you own something, you get to do what the heck you want to do with it, and that's what he's doing. So for all those people who has a problem with it, listen. If you
when he
have a problem,
dish it
you have to
out,
have-
Vanessa, he should be able to take it.
Oh, I don't disagree.
care.
I disagree. I don't disagree
But
with you.
but if he wanna come at me and beat up on me, fine. But then I can come back and kick him in
My point is,
his
you got
little
your
nut
own,
ball
you got your
head.
own platform.
Right.
You can say what
whatever.
you want to say.
There's no
But
question.
what I'm saying is, I'm talking about the broader scheme.
Oh, I'm not upset. That's him.
Yeah,
He owns it.
absolutely. He owns it. He could do what the heck he wants to do with it.
And no question about it. Enough of what Kevin Adele, because we got bigger fish to fry.
Thanks for
Listen,
watching, though.
listen.
Bring your viewers over here to Detroit Black
Listen,
Podcast.
Detroit is right now. We had some folks that go to. First, they went to circuit court about suing the redistrict
Right.
commission. The circuit court say you got no suit. The Supreme Court, Michigan Supreme Court, say you don't have a suit. Federal court say bullshit.
Right.
You can listen. Detroit has been hoodwinked. The Democratic Party pissed on the city of Detroit to get control of Lansing. So, in other words, they diluted all the voting power of Detroit. Now we rep the parts of Detroit is represented by people from Royal Oak and beyond Wall Lake and Hazel Park and all these other places. Not even counting the people that are moved into Detroit, like Steve Tabachman, Rashida Tlaib, Sri Canada. All these people came from nowhere, and they went and they bought their way into the community, and here they are represent us. And now these folks are crying. Where the fuck were you when they was doing all this? You didn't get the people out to vote. You diluted the race. You had 10 people run for one office and stuff. So I'm not surprised that Detroit has been rendered useless and they're not a major player. Nobody has to come in here and beg for a vote. They don't have to give any preachers any money. They already sold their soul. So, I hope the lawsuit, I hope they win.
Hope they prevail.
Yes, I sure do. And then they have to restructure what they screwed up on. So that's what's happening. Let's go to our
all right, let's
guest.
bring her in here. Okay.
Do we have her?
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Hey there.
Yes, we got it.
Miss Alia Harvey Quinn. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. How are y'all?
Thank you. We were just
morning.
running and we're doing our usual thing. But go ahead.
All right. We're just going to give you a little intro. You've got quite a impressive little bio here. It says Alia Harvey Quinn is a bold leader with the dedication for investing in often ignored emerging grassroots leaders. As a daughter of Black Panthers, Alia is calling into the world of activism, leadership, and community building. It was always in her DNA. She is the founder and executive director of Force Detroit. Under her leadership, Force Detroit has established itself as a widely recognized and well-respected community organization, shedding light locally and nationwide on the solutions to gun violence with a primary focus on community violence intervention.
Well, that's
Quite impressive.
tell us what do your organization do?
Yeah, so we do community organizing to change policies, and then we do actual community programming towards building a freer and safer Detroit. We're one of the Shot Stoppers groups with the city of Detroit.
Go
You
ahead.
won the what Shot Stoppers group?
We're one of the 6 Shot Stoppers groups with the city. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So have you been working with the city?
Yes, we have. We've been at the Gun Violence Task Force. We're now a Shot Stoppers group. Excited about like what's emerging, but it's only been 2 months. We're only 2 months into the process.
Okay. So what is emerging?
Yeah, so what's emerging is well, maybe I should start with what we advocated for.
Okay.
In January of 2020, we released a report where we um, asked for $150 million over 10 years to invest in what essentially is a parallel safety sector to the police, so that people have an opportunity before they're arrested to transform their lives. And that's because we know all of the things that you were saying earlier. We know people are poor, they're low social determinant of health scores. People don't see the opportunities even if they're present. And so CBI sites function as a way to help people to really, across the country, get the mental health that they need, like you all mentioned earlier, get the job assistance that they need, get access to, basic services. But it's filtered through this sort of lens of focusing on the people who are directly impacted by violence, who are at the center of violence, so that we mitigate the traumas that that group of people are dealing with. And statistically, that's been proven to reliably reduce violence between 20 and 40%. So if you look at models like Cure Violence or Advanced Peace, across the country, these models have been able to reduce violence when properly implemented, at a staggering rate. Sometimes, even more than that, like Ceasefire in Oakland was able to reduce violence by 51%. Advanced Peace in Richmond, California was able to reduce it by almost 70%.
How do we stop these kids from getting guns and shooting themselves or shooting their siblings? It's just,
Yeah.
You read here in Detroit, we got a rash of them, but then it's all around the country. How do we?
Yeah.
If I own a gun, how do I keep it safe?
Yeah. So, I think we got to secure our guns.
Sometimes they go into these and they get them, even
Yeah.
when parents say I had it locked up, but they went and got the gun anyway.
Yeah. So violence is a public health epidemic, and we just don't have the resources that we should in the space. Every other meaningful public health epidemic is met with a real strong narrative push. Like, remember, this is your brain on drugs and all that messaging around like not doing drugs in the early 90s, or even the messaging around COVID more recently. We don't see the same type of investment around awareness about gun violence, how to properly store, what that looks like, or even, there should be ads popping up on these games that these children are playing that functions in much the same way that those ads did when I was a child in the 90s. I was scared to death of drugs.
And did you grow up in Detroit?
I grew up mostly in Detroit, but I went through elementary school in Ecorse.
And we see every weekend you're here in Chicago, there's 50 shootings. Here in Detroit, there's a bunch of shootings, and it doesn't seem to reach the crisis where it should be a crisis. Like every weekend, we should be alarmed, but it's just another weekend comes and goes. How do we get people to in everywhere to be outraged? We're becoming numb with the mass shootings and in supermarkets and schools and all that, and we've been numb in the shootings in the inner city forever. How do we get people to?
Yeah, so when you look at the movements that have been successful around the country, like the Boston Miracle, there was the direct, CBI work, which wasn't called CBI work at the time, but it still retains many of the same elements. But then there was also a piece around culture change. And a lot of times that piece is led by our faith community. It is, Bishop Daryl Harris. Shout out to him. He rocks with Ceasefire. It is that team showing up, praying with families. It is those like faith-based groups doing marches, they've been doing marches in Detroit. There's a team of pastors led by a Kojic brother. His name escaped me. We were partnering in 2021, but they've been leading marches across the city for years. And the thing is that you have to start with a really, really intentional investment in a neighborhood. The relationships have to be real and the support has to be real for community. Because our community is used to looking at the nonprofit community like the nonprofit community is trying to steal from them, right? And so they have to people have to be able to see the tangible material change in their lives in order to begin to trust and to begin to have hope, because at every point systems have harmed our community, even if they're well intended, right? So like we see schools functioning as a pipeline to prison, right? And so when you show up as a nonprofit, unfortunately, that's a part of another system. And our people, we have to build those one-on-one individual relationships through good community organizing, for people to even have hope in a safer
It
future.
seems in the schools, like Adolph and I went to school together. We knew, like in sixth grade, seventh grade, some kids were not they were gonna go to prison. Uh, and it seems like if we as kids can figure that out, why are the school districts not doing more to intervene and say this kid is headed in the wrong direction? Let's get him now before he ends up where we fear he might
Or
end
they,
up.
they kick them out all the time, unless instead of dealing with the problem. But I do have a question, and then I'll go to you, Vanessa. Uh, in Baltimore, they took a housing project and they had the Nation of Islam to come in there and patrol it, and they stopped all the crime. But guess what? Folks in Congress said, well, we're going to cut that money off because they didn't like Farrakhan and his politics. And so they withdrew the funds, and we right back to scaring the hell out of folks who were scared to come home, lock their doors because crime went up. How do we get past the politics of all this and say, okay, this group is good. I might not like some of the things they talk about, but they have come into our community and have made it safe.
Yeah, so that's the challenge, and that's why we organize at the same time as we do the actual safety programming. The organizing has to be real. It has to be long term. The relationships have to be deep. It can't just be about politics. And then if you do that intentional deep dive in community, if this program is truly working and the people truly care about what's happening, then they vote them out. Period. Like if you came and shut down this thing that's helping me and my son, they vote them out. But you can't do it in isolation. It can't just be a program at a storefront nonprofit that's isolated from community. We have to be like in people's face, talking to them, interacting with them, having lunch with them. We got to be taking a meaningful approach to the work.
So, with your approach, because you've talked about all these other programs and they're effective for a minute, but it appears to me that it's a band-aid. It's effective for a minute. It's not long-term. What are some of the tools that your organization is using or plan to use so that this will have a long-term impact in the community?
Yeah, so we advocated for a Michigan Office of Community Violence Intervention. That was a recent win politically at the state level. The goal was has been to secure dedicated public offices that, write federal grants and steer public dollars into this sector. We're advocating for the same thing at the city level. We are working with philanthropy to advocate for long-term private sector allocations for this funding. And at the same time, we are offering support and training to our peers who are in the CVI sector. And we've always regranted to other groups.
How do people get involved in your organization? How do they contact you?
Right.
Yeah, so we've got an organizing team. Folks can reach out to Lynn Wiggins, and that's Lynn, Lynn at forestdetroit.org. They can also reach out to Skrill, SCREAL at forestdetroit.org. I would give folks phone numbers out, but I don't want to make the mistake of giving out people's personal numbers on air.
Because you know people, people be calling.
Is that correct? Lynn at forcedetroit.org?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Listen,
all right.
We're gonna have to have you back on, Miss Quinn. You know,
I'm looking forward.
Listen, we need organizations like yours, and when Lynn was talking about working with your organization, I said we gotta have her on. You know, so
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. This has been a good conversation. I'm gonna start tuning in. I didn't know about the show.
Well, thank you.
Right.
And how can we be reached?
We want you to subscribe, like, and share. Subscribe, like, and share.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Tell me your names.
I'm sorry.
I'm Allan Lengel, Adolph Mongo, and Vanessa Moss.
Yes.
Nice people can listen to us on. We're live on Facebook on Deadline Detroit and Detroit in Black and White. We have a website where you can see all of the shows, previous and current, on DetroitInBlackAndWhite.com. And we're also on Twitter and YouTube as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Alia Harvey Quinn,
Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you for having me. Y'all take care.
Okay, let's take a break and we'll be back.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email textinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Well, welcome back. Joining us is our regular contributor, Jim Nardoni from Downriver.
Good morning.
What's up, Jim? Listen, you spent, 28 years as a police officer?
I did.
I just can't get over this news story coming out of Ohio where two cops responded. No, they were already there, and they got a call saying that a woman stole a bottle of liquor out of the store, and she got in her car. She was obviously pregnant, 6-7 months pregnant. I don't know how many months, but you can see on the body cam where the one cop just shot through the window, killed her and her unborn child. Tell me, over a bottle of liquor?
Well, I'm going to start with this. I just read a little article about John Belford as the police chief, a gutless hunk of a police chief, that I'm shocked by his response. His response was that his officers were victims in this incident. A gutless, cowardly police chief. First of all, he said we should stop and see what happened, right? Let's wait and see what actually happened. And then he came out and put a press release out that said that his police officers were victims of an assault. Well, if you saw that video, they weren't victims of anything, all right? They changed the laws in California. People are fired up about it. We can't let people do whatever they want. People have property. They own a business. They shouldn't have to get their things stolen. But to kill somebody for a bottle of liquor or a tube of toothpaste?
Somebody, it was two somebodies, right? It was her and the baby, right?
Two people, yes.
Two people.
The baby was killed.
And
also.
so the question for me becomes, how do we police the police?
This is the answer. It takes courage. And I can tell you this. My first reaction, I was a police chief, was to protect the police officers because they have a tough, very difficult job. That police officer needed to take 2 steps. One step to his right with his right foot and 1 step to the right with his left foot, and he's no longer in danger, right? This was a little girl, 21 no disrespect, but that's a young lady, right? 21 years old.
Right.
To shoot first and ask questions later, it's an outrage. And it always starts at the top in a police organization.
Absolutely.
If you don't hold your people accountable, holding them accountable is saying, this doesn't look good. Let's see what really happened. Was the police officer in danger? Was his life in danger? That's the only reason there's a force continuum. And if his life was in danger, he had the right to shoot. Other than that.
Well, what was the empathy and compassion for the person who lost her life as well as her child's life, for the family? To me, you should have addressed the public. This is a tragedy. This is terrible what happened. We're doing our investigation. I can't talk about it because we're still investigating. That's it. But to go and say they were assaulted and doing all that, that's ridiculous.
If you saw it,
they need to go. They need to step aside.
If you saw the body camera, the video, you would say, why did he shoot? Well, I mean, he just pulled his gun out and shot through the window.
I've had incidences like that where an officer his life was in danger. If someone's still, they put the residents of that shopping mall in danger by shooting her because the car went off in a different direction. So if you thought you were in fear of your life, what you did is you sent a car through a parking lot with nobody driving it.
Dylan Roof killed 9 people in a church, and they took him to McDonald's. I wonder all these people that mass killers, etc. And unless they kill themselves, they take them into custody. But to kill a woman over a bottle of liquor, that's why they tell employees, do not chase somebody out of the store that's stealing a coat or a pair of pants or a magazine.
A misdemeanor. A bottle of liquor costs $30 or $50. So you took someone's life for that when you had no other option. That's going to be the argument. That's going to be the police officer's argument. His life was in jeopardy, and he had to fire to protect his own life. Well, who believes that?
Well, we're gonna continue to follow this, and
it's the chief. The chief is they're following the lead of their chief. Their chief is saying, "Oh, you're a victim. You're a victim. You're standing there with a gun against a 21-year-old pregnant lady who's perhaps allegedly stole something that cost $25 or $30.
Right.
In what world does it make sense to take that life?
Right.
Well, but we hear it all the time, Jim, that the officer, they I feared for my life, so I just shoot now and talk later. It's like, God. I'm seeing these videos. There was a cop. He had a dog. I think of you, Jeff, when you talk about the cops with the dogs. And the dog bit the cop.
Did he?
Yeah, no, like he was so busy trying to beat up whoever he was chasing that he brought the dog and the dog bit him.
Let me ask you guys, since we're talking about officers and chiefs of police departments, what's your take on the chief in Dearborn driving drunk?
The fire chief. So that's an interesting story, actually.
Yeah.
Should they fire him?
They will not fire him.
Okay.
So they won't fire a police officer.
Should they fire him?
No.
They should not.
Because
Why not?
He'll probably be suspended for 30 days. The rule of thumb with police officers who were arrested for drunk driving is about a 30-day suspension. So I expect he'll get 30 days. It's a bad look for the. This guy's a.
Shouldn't he get demoted though?
Yes, he should have never been a police chief of Dearborn. There's somebody else that should have been a police chief of Dearborn when he was appointed. He has a PhD. fire chief. We're talking about
Right.
firefighters, not
Right.
police officers.
Right.
Let's make
And
that
I
clear.
misspoke.
Firefighters, they take a different route. They don't. A lot of them aren't as educated as police officers. To be a police chief, you mostly have to have about a master's or, at a minimum,
Mhm.
a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree. Fire chiefs take a different route because they're paramedics and they do. But this guy had a PhD, very qualified educational wise. But as far as being a fire chief, I think they had a better choice.
And he wasn't really. He moved up the food chain pretty quick.
He did.
So he knew he had friends in high places.
Well, the interesting part about that is the
And he
gentleman
had
that
indulged quite a bit.
I know very well, the gentleman that should have been the chief of the,
Mhm.
of
Is
the
he
Dearborn
still
Fire
there?
Department. No, he's the. I hired him as a fire chief in the city of Trenton, so
Oh.
he is now the city administrator for the city of Trenton. So I know a little bit about the situation.
So you stole him.
No, he had left. He retired. And,
Well, and thanks, Jim. We're going to take a break and we'll continue the conversation. Detroit in black and white.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2000.
Whoops. Shit.
Whoops. Oh, okay,
All
Allan.
right, I hit.
Okay, Allan.
Yep. All right, let's do that again. Do we want to run that?
Yeah,
one?
we'll run it.
Run it.
All right,
Run it
let's
again.
do it.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
But hey, welcome back. I'm Adolph Mongo, Vanessa Moss, and Allan Lengel. We're during the break. I was saying that I agree with the crazy woman from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said that Dianne Feinstein and Mitch McConnell need to go.
And we've got the video.
Okay, and I agree with Nikki Haley, who says that the Senate is just it's a nursing home.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026? All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator.
Listen, that's sad because
It really is sad.
When my father turned 82, we had to take the keys from him. He went out and bought a new car.
Yeah.
His eyesight was going bad. My mother said, "Who would sell an 82-year-old man who can't see a car?" The same people that sold him the car years before, and had to take the keys. And you hate that because he taught me how to drive, taught everybody how to drive. He could drive. But it gets to a point where enough is enough. Mitch McConnell needs to say,
It looks like I think he had a mini stroke, which you bounce back, and that's why they say, "Oh, he's fine," because people who have mini strokes continue on.
I'm not going to speculate, but what I will say is this: for years and years, we've heard conversations about term limits. This is an example. You have people who are hold these positions, and they hold them until they pass away. And that is really unfortunate. You even have people, on the Supreme Court, that's what happened.
Right.
Listen, I think there should be term limits. You should not be so ego-driven that you say, hey, I'm going to stay here until literally everything falls off. That's unfair. That's unfair to the country. That is unfair to the country. That is unfair to the country. It's unfair to the people that you serve.
We've had federal judges when I come to the courthouse.
Absolutely.
We're in their 90s.
Yes.
And it's kind of crazy. I mean, it's great. I mean, some of them had still very sharp minds and stuff like that, but they were.
But you remember
Strong
Thurman? So. He was 100 years old. Yeah. He was on his deathbed. They needed him to vote. They was bringing him in on a gurney.
Right.
They took him in and he voted. I don't think he knew where he was.
You don't even know what he was doing. And so, for me, it's you're standing there, and people are joking. I think it's really sad, but it's more of a commentary about
why he won't quit.
What you are.
And what about Joe Biden?
Because the governor.
Thank God there's term limits for that.
The governor of Kentucky is a Democrat. So if McConnell stepped down or unfortunately died, he'll appoint a Democrat. That's what they worried about. And what
is he worried about?
You know what?
You said you talking about him because to me that's ego. Okay.
During the White House Correspondents' Dinner recently, I think it was back in May or so, Roy Wood Jr., the comedian, was saying, he goes, isn't it crazy? He goes, in France, they're going crazy because they want to move the retirement age from 62 to 64. And he says, here we got an 80-year-old guy who wants 4 more years of work. He doesn't want to retire. And, the question becomes, obviously, look, Joe Biden, again, age is a question. And people say it's ageism.
You heard what he said. He said he was a 21-year-old convincing segregation, and it's like Strong Thurman to vote for the Voting Rights Act. You got to be at least 33 to be in the Senate. So listen, I'm forgetful. And I'm not 80 years old.
Exactly.
I'm gonna tell you, Grandpa is old. Grandpa is old.
So what do you think?
I think we got no choice because we got a maniac who, if he get elected, he never leaving.
I disagree. We always have options. You just don't like the options that you have.
What's the option?
You don't like that. No, you say we don't have a choice. You just don't like the choices, but you do have choices.
So who can replace Grandpa on the Democratic side?
Nobody's going to do that. They're going to let him.
They're talking about Newsom in California.
Until he finishes his term, however it goes.
They've mentioned Newsom in California, but I don't think he's too far.
We got one, Chiefs in Lansing. Her name is Big Gretch.
Well,
she's not going to. She wouldn't. I don't believe she would. She would not step in because that's not how it goes. That's not the pecking order.
I do have, if you want a little humor.
We got Robert Kennedy.
We got. Oh my gosh. We got.
Why was that? Oh my gosh.
Because he's a nut job. He's a nut job.
Y'all better stop calling people names. You're going to get a letter in the mail.
You're
going to get a letter.
Spell my name. It's not A-B-O-L-L.
You better stop saying you're going to get a letter in the mail or an email. Don't say that about Robert Kennedy.
Well, here's a little funny thing on Marjorie Taylor Greene. A little humor here that I found.
We looked up some words that have been said about you.
Okay.
Crazy, Q clown, Looney Tune, unhinged, moron.
I've got a few more. Osama bin Karen, a dipstick, a dingbat, a dolt, a dullard, a dimwit, a doofus, a dummy, dumbass. I'm only a third of the way through the D's.
Looks like the average troll in my Twitter feed.
A good argument for misogyny. Nazi wine mom, Nazi cave woman, just Nazi.
Oh, I don't let name calling bother me or offend me. I just don't.
Butterbrain. This one's from someone across the pond, a daft wanker. That's British for stupid.
It's a divided world out here. It's so funny when you watch the different cable stations. I said it's MSNBC, CNN. They're talking about Trump, like prosecution of Trump. You go over to like Fox, Newsmax. It is Biden, Hunter Biden, the emails from Biden under the pseudonyms and this and that endlessly. And so it's funny.
I can't stand that or that.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you,
It's extreme on both sides.
That's ridiculous.
It's extreme on both sides.
But anyway, as we come to an end, Allan, your final thoughts.
I'm going to say, hey, there's a lot happening this weekend. We got the Jazz Fest, which I think is always an amazing festival. The Royal Oak Taste, whatever. Arts Beats and East. I'm mad that they left. They do nothing for the city of Royal Oak for the commerce there. Maybe the city of Royal Oak must get some money for it, but they do nothing. Most of the stores have to shut down. In Pontiac, it would be great because there aren't a lot of stores. They took it away.
They took it.
So I'm not a huge advocate, although there's a lot of people who love it. There's a lot of great music going on there. And then we have in Hamtramck the whole weekend festival, Labor Day.
But you wouldn't even.
And there's a Labor Day parade.
You wouldn't even know that if you watched a couple of the local channels. They promoted Arts Beats and East they barely mentioned the Jazz Festival.
Right.
Never said anything about
Hamtramck has a great thing going all weekend in Hamtramck.
You're gonna fly some flags?
Yeah, right. The pride flags.
Right.
Yeah. But also there is a Labor Day parade. I think it's the first time since the pandemic they're going to have it down here. I think it's going to start on Michigan Avenue, and it's going to be. Usually, you can feel the energy if it's an election year, which it's not quite. But also the UAW is talking about striking, so you'll see a lot of UAW members at the parade.
So let me say that Allan stole my thunder because I usually like to talk about what's going on the weekend. I will say last night I was out. I walked over to Colgan A. Young Municipal Complex outside there dancing in the dig. It was lit last night. I had a good time.
Were you lit?
In spirit, yes, but I wasn't
what kind
drinking,
of spirit?
No, water. WATER. And if I had decided to have a drink, I was good because I walked. So, but
I'd say if I know I'm gonna have more than one drink, I Uber or something, or I don't drive.
I saw Lengel one time in an Uber. I said he must be inebriated.
No, I don't take a chance. I've never had a DUI. And I hope to never have one.
Okay. So, but what I'd like to say is that if you're watching our show, we want you to like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. Detroit in Black and White. You can see us on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go to our page, DetroitBlackandWhite.com. Like, subscribe, and share. Have a wonderful, safe holiday weekend. It's going to be scorching hot. We're going to have some wonderful weather. Enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to another spirited conversation next Saturday here at McShane's on the corner of Michigan and Trumbull.
And I want to thank Bob Roberts for letting us use his establishment. And thanks Alia Harvey Quinn from Force Detroit. You know what? We got to have her back on. Thanks, Jim, Teresa, Henry. This is Adolph Mongo, Allan Lengel, and Vanessa Moss. We'll be back next week.
All righty.
And we'll see how perfect can we get
it.
Next week.
Get it right.
We won't be on mute next week.
Get it
mute
right.
R. Kelly. Mute Detroit in Black and White.